Greetings. Hi, my name is Dwayne, and I just want to go over a few things that I've had people ask me questions on here lately. And people are just starting out, especially learning how to make gnomes, also wanting to learn how to put arms onto it and certain things that they can just add to just the beginning of their basic gnomes here. And this is something that you can use either with sock gnomes, or if you have any of my patterns where I'm using the felt, you can use this with the felt. This is also something that you can do as far as either sewing or with just a glue gun. So you have the option there. We're going to keep just real simple here. I'm just going to take a sock, and you could take any sock, and this is going to be making for a hat. And people ask me about patterns, and a lot of times when I'm doing like with a sock, cutting it out for a hat, I don't have a pattern. But one of the questions I had was, some people are starting out with a sock, they got the beard, and then they're just adding a sock to the top of it and making their hat. And what to do with this heel. They've come up with something that looks nice, basically, as a good gnome. You could do something simple just like that. You could put some stuffing into it, make the hat go up, but they're still having problems with this heel that's sticking out here. So what I do to eliminate that heel, and this is something that I had to learn too, because at first I started trying to glue that heel. I'll take and have about a 2-inch cuff here down at the bottom, and I'll cut at an angle. And again, this isn't my own idea. This isn't something that's new or anything. Just trying to give some people an idea that are asking questions of how they can make hats starting out. And you can cut all the way up to the toe if you want. You can cut along the side. I usually cut about 8 or 9 inches to give me a good length in a hat. And this was a long sock. We do have other socks that are a little bit shorter. And I happen to like the fleece socks. Fleece socks are really great. I order most of mine on Amazon, and just look up women's fleece socks. You can also find them in the stores this time of year, especially Target, the dollar stores. And again, I go up about 2 inches, and I just cut. And I'm cutting at an angle. So I'm cutting that heel off of there and just heading up towards the toe as I angle in. And again, that's going to give me my hat to go on the gnome. So from here, what I do is I take my hat, turn it inside out. And as I said, this is the part where if you don't sew, you could still hot glue. You could take hot glue and just run right down the seam here and get yourself, just settle that on there, glue it, and then flip it back inside out. Myself, I like to just hand sew everything. Again, you can machine sew, but I hand sew, and I'll put it right through. And for the hats or my bodies, I actually use the blanket stitch, where I'm just putting it in there, goes through right the center. And I'll just do that, sew it all the way up to the top there. And I got one here that I've already finished sewing. As I said, you could also glue it. Then once I'm done with that, all I do is turn it inside out. And another reason I like the fleece socks is because you really can't see the seam that much. That fleece covers up that seam real well there. So I've got a real nice little hat going on here. And when I go to put it on my gnome, what I like to do is actually roll that up a good inch or so I have a cuff there. Now with the hat, I could do a number of things with this type of hat easily. I could put a little stuffing into it, and I got a beautiful hat here, just going straight up, real nice, makes for a nice gnome, real beautiful Christmas type gnome. Other thing I do is I turn it to the side where I do have the seam, and I fold it over. Here again, I have that cuff there. I could do a number of things. I could bring that down farther. I could bring it up higher, put a little stuffing into it. And then I glue right along the seam there and glue that down. That's one of my tricks I use to hide my seam. And still, that would come out looking like a nice gnome. I put my nose on here. I use wood balls. I use like a 1-inch wood ball. I could put that on there, give a placement. Let me grab, this is actually 3/4 inch, but just give a little ball there so you got an image there. So that could make a simple little hat that way. Also, people ask me, well, how do you make your Santa hats? Do you have a pattern for your Santa hats? I get a lot of people asking, since I do post other patterns, how do you make your Santa hats? Could you show me a pattern? I do the exact same thing. I take the hat, put it on there. I don't necessarily do the cuff. I can fold it over. This gives me a little bit longer now, fold on it. And easily all I do is actually just take some yarn. This is some stuff I've picked up from Hobby Lobby if you've seen any of my other tutorials. And I'll just glue that right on around there. So here I'm going to be making my Santa's hat. I can either take some more of this, just a little piece, and add that to the end, or I could take a pom-pom and just glue that right on the end. So if you're looking for a quick, easy Santa hat as we're going into the holiday seasons here, that's a great way to make that, easy way to make it too. So now that we have our hat made, I'm going to show you too another thing that a lot of people I see starting out, they do that. They have a basic body, they have the beard, they have the hat, they've got it, they know what they're doing on that, but they wanted to figure out how to do arms. I take the rest of the sock, the leftover sock that I've already cut that out of, and right at the heel, just below the heel here, I'm going to cut straight across there. Put that aside. That actually is going to be for like a mini gnome eventually. I'll use that for a hat. Real nice looking there. And then I'm going to cut down straight here. And if anybody's ever seen one of my patterns for the arms, it's like 2 1/4 by 3.5 inches. So for here, I'm doing pretty much the same thing. I'm looking for 2 1/4, roughly 2 1/4 here. And again, roughly about 3.5 inches in length here. And I'm going to cut this. So here I have my 2 arm pieces. And I'm just going to flip it over and then sew that together, which again, you could actually use hot glue. I could just take hot glue, run the hot glue down there. And so if you want to make your gnome and you're using just hot glue, this could be done with hot glue too. So I just put a couple blanket stitches in at the very beginning. And then what I do is I just run a stitch right through. And this just takes a couple moments to do this. Get down to the end there. And when I get to the end, I do a couple blanket stitches again. That way just I know I'm holding the end there together. Also, it makes it easier for me to just put the thread through as a tie off too. So there I have my arm. Now, it's inside out, and this is another reason why I'm actually doing this tutorial. The number of people asking about making arms. When you notice most of my gnomes, I'm actually using felt, and I make a lot of felt arms, but the difficulty comes in turning them inside out. It is a struggle, and for the longest time, I didn't like making arms because of the struggle trying to turn the felt inside out. Well, that is one reason why I like the going with the socks. And this can also be done with sweaters too. My wife has rheumatoid arthritis. Her hands just don't work as easy. And from talking to a number of other people, that seems to be an issue too, is the struggle with trying to get something stiff to turn inside out. Yes, I can use end of a pencil. I use the blunt part of my scissors to poke through, but it's still a bit of a struggle to get that done. Where when you're using the sock, you have the stretchiness. You have that you can just pull right through there. And this also works, again, like I said, with sweaters, that you can do this. Now, as I said, I don't really have a pattern when I'm making the hat, but I do know if I'm going out and buying a sweater from usually a thrift store so that I can use, I'm going to pretty much use the same type of thing that I'm going to use with a sock. I'm going to set the sock down and use those same measurements type of thing. So I'm looking about 3 inches there and going up about 8 inches on a curve. So I may not have a set pattern, but I have something. And the cuffs are great to work with. The sleeves, those make great for hats. But see, you have that stretchiness. So even if you are building on a sock gnome, you have that stretchiness to go over. But back to the arm there, you've got it turned inside out. And that was the big question that I was getting was from people. They were struggling with trying to put the felt arms and turning them inside out. This way, if you're doing it with the sock, you've cut out your sock here, you've got your pieces left over, but you've got the 2 arms, and you just sew that together. It is so much easier just to turn that inside out, and you still can fit. I use a 3/4 inch ball, wood ball. I actually get these from Hobby Lobby. I've ordered them online in certain places too, but I usually find it's about the same, almost exactly the same price that it works out to by the time I pay for shipping. So when my Hobby Lobby has these, I buy them up. And to put them on, all I do is just around the rim there, put my glue, and then set my ball in there. Now, this is another reason why I like the fleece socks too, because some of the socks, be honest with you, are very thin. And when I've cut into them and I've started making things, when I go to put that hot glue in there for that arm, it's so thin the hot glue comes through onto my fingers, which, again, you're not wanting to get burned by the hot glue. So I look for the thicker socks. As I said, sweaters usually work out real well too. But again, you have to be careful of the material you use. And again, you still have the stretchiness there. But the fleece seems to just be a great way to put together something. This also, once I get it all together, I like to, just do like we did with the Santa Claus there, the hat. I can add this around the sleeve to add a little bit more character to it. So once I have that, I use just a little bit of stuffing down in here. And again, it helps out having the sock or having a sweater material because you can do the stretching. And you can stick, and I do little pieces. Don't try to stick big pieces in there at first. Just little pieces. It stretches out for you. And probably takes about 4 or 5 times just sticking little pieces in there and stuffing them down. Whereas the felt, again, the felt is stiffer. And it's a little bit harder to get that started, to get that going. I usually end up, again, having something that I poke down into it to do the felt. But if I'm using just little pieces and using my socks to stretch, I can just do that like that. And that helps a lot. My wife will tell you, even though she doesn't build gnomes, she does a lot of other crafts. It just seems a lot easier for her to be able to turn things in and out too by using the socks or the sweaters. Now, when I get it up here, about 1/2 inch is where I stop with my stuffing. I'll take just a little bit of hot glue, just a dab right in the inside here, about a 1/4 inch down, and then pinch that shut. Again, this is one of those things where if you have the thin sock, you got to be very careful because again, the heat, the hot glue will come through there. But once I've got that glued down, I'm going to take my body, which again, this is just my basic felt body that I make. This could also be a sock if you want. And I'm going to add my beard. And another question I get asked all the time is for patterns for beards. I don't have a set pattern really. All I do is I measure across about 4 inches across the top and across the bottom there, because I'm using pretty much a standard size, I do 3 inches in the middle. And then I just curve the sides up. Again, you can watch other videos. This is, again, none of it's my original ideas here, but you want to just cut the backing. You don't want to cut with scissors. Use an X-Acto knife, razor blade, just to cut the backing so you get all this nice fur. So if you watch any of my other videos, you'll see how to do that. But again, it's nothing that is proprietary or nothing that nobody shows anymore. But I'll put my beard over the seam. I like to hide the seam so I have a good back, just a plain back. And I'm going to run my glue to put my beard in place. Hold that down for a minute. And then work on doing the other side. And so here I wanted to just show you how I attach my arms then. So I have my arm, I've already flattened that part there. So I'm going to add, this is where the seam is on the inside again. Just add some light glue to the top here. Again, don't try to overdo it. Just do enough here. And what I do is I take at the corner of the beard, right at the corner, and just above it, I'm going to hold that down, and that's where my arm's going to go. Again, I got the 4 inches for the top there, so I know that's going to be my spot, so I can have my arm come onto the side there. And then I'll take the other arm. Again, I want the seam in the back. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can see some fraying up here or anything like that, but that's all actually going to be hidden underneath the hat. So again, I'm right here at the edge of the beard, coming up just a little bit taller than the beard. Gluing my arm on there. So I got my arms for my gnome. I'm going to take my hat, and again, I'm going to roll this up just so I have a little bit of cuff to it. Depends on how you want to do it. If you want to make this a Santa hat, like I said, don't put the cuff in it. Just go ahead and put it on there and put the fringe around it. And then here, once again, if I want to turn it to the back and just stuff it, I can have a long pointed hat. I like to do more of a droop type style with it. And then, as I said, just glue the inside in here. So I hope that helps you out. Like I said, I'm just trying to get something very basic here for you to show how to put the arms together, how to put them on there. After that, it's all up to you, however you want to accessorize this. If you want to do something different with the nose, if you want to do something where the hat comes up, or you want to do something where You can bring this down, put the trim around it, make it a Santa hat. There's so many options that you can do to decorate and make your gnomes. This is just the basic beginning. Bring a hat all the way down to the side. I love to see everybody's got their own little styles of how to make how to make their gnome. But I just wanted to answer a few questions that people had on making the arms, making a hat, and I hope that answers them for you and hopes it gives you some idea that I know some people, some of us do struggle with certain things, but once you get the basic down, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of great things, some beautiful gifts you can make. And I see a lot, especially in these gnome groups, of just beautiful gnomes that all they do is start out with the basic and then from there grow. So I'm hoping that helps you a little bit, hoping to see some of your great gnomes. I love to be part of these groups here and love to see what you're doing.